Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Virtual Construction and Project Development Conference. This is the first in a series of web events that are scheduled to deliver presentations from the conference previously scheduled for March 17th and 18th in Bismarck. A website has been created that provides a schedule of presentations and will include links to the video recordings. The website can be found on the DOT webpage under Construction and Project Development Conference and will be included in the next meeting invitation. A professional development hour document is also available from the website. Today's presenter for the first half hour is William T. Panos, Director of the Department of Transportation. Bill is the 22nd Director of the North Dakota Department of Transportation. The DOT has 982 employees and a biennial budget of $1.4 billion to build and maintain a safe, efficient transportation system consisting of approximately 8,622 miles of roadway and 1,722 bridges. Bill previously served as the Director of the Wyoming Department of Transportation from 2015 to 2019 and as Director of the Wyoming Department of School Facilities from 2013 to 2015. Bill is a native of California and a graduate of the California State University, where he studied physics and forensic science. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. And I want to extend my gratitude to everyone who is listening in today. This is a unique time in our state, in the great state of North Dakota. And having this particular format is really very useful, helpful, and complicated. And so a lot of work went into putting this together. And I want to thank our entire North Dakota DOT team for arranging this conference. And I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us today and for the next few weeks to go through this very important information about our construction programs throughout North Dakota. I've got a few things to cover this morning, and so I wanted to kind of outline those a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the agency and some of our priorities. We're going to speak a little bit about the agency's COVID response, which has been robust over the last, I want to say 6 weeks or so. We've been very, very busy working with other state agencies and the federal government at ensuring that we respond appropriately to the COVID crisis and help other agencies and help our Joint Command Team and the governor's office and our communities throughout the state in responding to this crisis. And now we've turned our attention to economic recovery, which if you've been following the governor's press conferences and some of the other information you know and you've seen over the last few weeks. We're also going to talk a little bit about our current projects, our 2020 projects, a little bit about that. And then I think they're going to be showing a film on our construction projects in 2019, which I'm looking forward to seeing as well. And then I'm going to take some questions as we go through. I hope I have that right to our team that's sort of put this together. Well, let me talk a little bit about our agency. North Dakota's surface transportation program is pretty large. It's got we have about 5,000 bridges in our state. Our road miles are about 88,000 road miles. The department manages about 1.2 million vehicle registrations every year and about 560,000 driver's licenses. As Sharon said, the budget's around 1.4 billion in the biennium, 700 or so thousand in any given year. What's interesting is we're the smallest state DOT in the United States with 982 employees. That's not to say that we manage the fewest number of miles. In fact, we manage more miles than Wyoming, Montana, or Alaska. But we have an amazing team of 982 professionals working every day. Over the last 6 weeks, some of them teleworking every day to make sure that our citizens and our citizens are safe, our businesses are well run, and we've got great mobility throughout our state. So we're very proud of all of them. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about our priorities. Since I came on board in September of 19, the governor, Governor Burgum, Lieutenant Governor Sanford have been great partners and really gave some clear direction to us about where they would like us to go. And we've been very fortunate to continue to have their support and the support of the state legislature as we've been working through our priorities. The first priority is really around the idea of enhanced service delivery. For us, service delivery is critical, not just in our construction program and with our contractor partners and our engineering consulting partners, and our local government, but it's also important when we're dealing with citizens in our motor vehicle and driver's license facilities as well. And so we've got a variety of different places where service delivery is critical, and where it is a challenge for us. And I was talking with the chief of staff earlier this morning, and I said we're built to exceed expectations, and that's what I'm seeing across the state. Is that our teams throughout the state, throughout our district offices, are exceeding expectations on a regular basis, and where they can't, they are figuring out how to, and they're doing a great job of doing that. So enhancing service delivery is a really important priority for us, and we're very, very pleased with our continuous improvement around that idea. The second priority is really building our agency's capacity. And as we look across our surface transportation system, there's need for more funding, there's need for more work, there is a need for more capacity. And so we are working at the state level to enhance our capacity, and we're working at the federal level to enhance our capacity. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that as it relates to COVID response here in a bit. But we are, by the way, in the process of doing our budget right now for the 21-23 biennium, and part of that is increasing this number from about 1.4 billion to about 1.5 billion in terms of our biennial budget, and that's going to be bringing more dollars to our construction program in particular and to our agency generally. But we're trying to do everything that we can at the state and federal level to build our agency capacity. And the last is really around the idea of deploying technology. Intelligence transportation systems are an important part of the future of surface transportation, not only in North Dakota, but around the country. And so we are looking to our federal partners and looking to some of our state agency partners to help build the capability of our transportation system and in the area of technology deployment. And so we're going to be doing that over the next few years. We're talking about a transportation operating center, TOC. Most states have these. We built one in Wyoming when I was there. We'll build one here, and it allows us to not only wire our surface transportation system, but to coordinate information through that system so that we can get information to drivers, we can get information from the road system so that we can make better decisions, and it allows us to have a smarter infrastructure, smarter roadways as we go forward. And frankly, there's a lot of federal dollars associated with this kind of deployment, and we're going to take advantage of that to not only build technology, but build our capacity to do technology as we go further, which will enhance our customer service. So these priorities are all connected, and we look forward to executing them over the next year. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a little bit about our COVID response. There's a slide up that you can see. Our COVID response really started, started in March, and we have adjusted almost all of our services and in all of our operating centers around the state, not just our district offices, but our motor vehicle and driver's license facilities as well. And many of our 982, between 400 and 500 of our employees are now teleworking, which is slightly more than half of our organization. is now teleworking, and so that was one part of our effort. The other was really cleaning. Part of the COVID crisis is really trying to make sure that the places that people come in contact with are cleaned and cleaned often. And so we had to increase rest area, public facility, employee workspaces, all have been receiving an increased level of cleaning over the last few weeks, and we're going to continue that as we go forward. We developed and deployed policies about people that traveled, our employees that traveled. We also eliminated all of our non-essential business travel, including all of our travel throughout North Dakota, which is a part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing today. In addition, we've limited most, if not all, of our face-to-face meetings. We haven't seen many of those, and so we do things like what we're doing today. And I think it's not quite what we're used to, but it is something that we are mastering. And so again, I'm really proud of our staff, all of them individually, and all of our teams as they've been able to bring new technology to be able to deal with the COVID crisis. I want to also say that we're providing transportation for medical equipment and COVID personnel around the state. And our teams are also providing communications. I'm sure you've seen if you're in North Dakota, you've seen our digital message signs, which are supporting communications around COVID-19 and the state's response around this. And also we are participating with economic recovery and general response support around the state. Our economic recovery, we'll talk about a little bit later, which is part of that has been to early start some of our construction projects. And I want to thank our contractors, engineers, and all of our district office staff for being able to get those projects moving earlier than they would normally do that, and it helps in economic recovery for the state of North Dakota. So we're very, very pleased with that. And again, on behalf of the governor and lieutenant governor, they want to thank all of our contractors and consultants, and certainly our staff for making that happen. The last thing is NDDOT is engaged in directly with our congressional delegation and federal agencies in COVID relief and recovery activities over the last few months. And so we've been involved in the third relief package, which is called the CARES Act. We're involved now in helping with the fourth relief package, which is going to focus on a number of different things, including infrastructure. And so we are really, really happy with the way that the federal government has been able to support not only NDDOT, but North Dakota in general. And so we want to thank all of them for all of their help, particularly our congressional delegation. So that's sort of an outline of our COVID response, but we've learned so much about COVID in the last few weeks. One of them is that highway traffic has been affected by the COVID, not only the COVID virus and the crisis around it, but the response. And this slide kind of helps to articulate some of that. You'll see on the left hand of the slide is the first week of March, and you'll see all the way to the right hand is the most recent data that came out Monday on our traffic volumes throughout the state. Now, this comes from all of our sensing locations around the state. We can also differentiate in these columns commercial and non-commercial, but for the purposes of this discussion, we've really left all of it together. But isn't it interesting? This is the largest drop that we've ever seen in our history in traffic volume over the shortest period of time. Its peak being in the 50% area. I think we were there end of March, and then again in about the middle of April. We saw some really deep drawdowns in our traffic volumes. This is not only interesting because it's showing that people are traveling less around the state and that some of the stay-at-home orders are working, but it also directly affects our budget. And as we looked at the analytics here, it's significant, both in terms of the volume reduction and in terms of the revenue reduction that we will see. And again, we are not alone. Other states are seeing similar or more dramatic reductions in their traffic volumes, and therefore more dramatic reductions in some of their revenue. So one of the things that we've been doing is working with making the legislature aware of this, but also the state legislature, but also the federal government aware of this. So we've joined with all of the other states around the United States in that discussion that we are having with the United States Congress. We are talking about this, and we are talking about some gap funding coming from the federal government to assist DOTs around the country, including the North Dakota DOT, in dealing with the gap that's created from this kind of traffic volume reduction. So we thought it was an interesting chart, thought we'd share it with you and talk about its implications to the agency. It's very interesting. I wanted to provide a bit of a safety message around COVID to the audience today, to our DOT employees, to our partners that are out there in the consulting community and contracting community, and also give you a message that we are going to continue with all of our projects scheduled for letting in 2020. We have, as I said earlier, quick started many of our projects. I'll talk about those in a bit. And we wanted to share with you things to consider when you are working on DOT projects and with the NDDOT, and some of the similar things that we have considered here. And as I had said earlier, our teams are mastering now ways to eliminate face-to-face meetings. So one of the things our teams are looking at with our projects are trying to do those online, some of the project meetings online as opposed to face-to-face. Again, like the NDDOT, regular cleaning of common work areas and vehicles and field labs. Those are very important things to do to reduce the spread of the COVID virus. And we have found that it's been very, not only helpful for mitigating the spread of the virus, but also I think people feeling good about the fact that they have to get in a vehicle that's been cleaned, that they know it's clean, or that they have to work in an area that they know it's been cleaned. I mean, that just gives a sense of confidence and helps them to engage in a way, in a normalized way. So it's really very helpful. And then the last and one of the most important is social distancing around our projects. This is always hard to do when you're out on a construction project, but can be done. And in fact, I've been driving around the state over this last couple of days and have seen this, where I'll look at project sites, and sure, there will be some areas where projects personnel will need to be, working in closely around a particular task that they're working on. But also, I've seen them spread out and kind of talking from a distance. It's a little strange to see, but they're doing it. And so I want to thank all of you who are doing social distancing, who are cleaning your vehicles in the areas, and who are trying to eliminate face-to-face meetings. I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing to help with COVID-19 project safety on NDDOT construction projects. So let's turn to our construction program for 2020. Basically everything that we had said that we had planned to do, we are doing. So we are moving forward with all of our projects. I think this season it's about a $350 million construction program. We've pulled some dollars in from last year. I think we had some more expenditures that we needed to finish up, and project work that we needed to finish up from from 19. So some of the dollars, some of the numbers that you'll hear are slightly higher, but than the 350 mark. I think it might even be 400 or so million in total that we'll see over 2020. But for right now, our planned program for this particular year is about 350 million. And as I had said, we had started many of these projects early. In fact, could you go to the next slide? I appreciate that. This is sort of a map of all of the projects that are out there. Many of these are what we call quick start projects, and about I want to say about 160 to 200 million dollars worth of them we brought forward. We were going to start, I think, in May, something like that, and we've moved them up and are beginning them now. In fact, this week they started all over the state. And so this gives you a sense of all of the projects that we are going to be doing in 2020 throughout the state. And it's a really good representation geographically, really good representation from a safety point of view, from an asset preservation point of view. We're really quite pleased with all of the work that you all are doing for us, and our teams have been planning for a number of years. So I want to thank all of them for all the hard work that got us to this point in 2020. I wanted to highlight a couple of projects. One is the completion of the Fargo Main Avenue project. We had started this last year, and it was a remarkably good project. So I thought it went very it went great last year, and really remarkable sort of effort. And this, I think there's the second phase of that is happening now. I think they're actually started this week. The last segment of Highway 1804 near Williston is going on, and that is, let me see, I got a little note here. That is from Red Mike area to County Road 42. And so we're really pleased that that's going on. And then, of course, the Long X Bridge replacement is happening now. I think we were delivering steel in the winter, and that's on Highway 85 south of Watford City. I've also asked the staff to begin the 4-laning between Watford City and the Long X Bridge, and that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of years. Well, it's being worked on now. All the pre-construction work is being done now, and we'll see that as well. But there's a number of projects here, something like, as I said, 160 to $200 million projects that we pushed up to begin now instead of a month or a month or two from now. So active construction season in 2020, amazing effort last year as well. And I think they were going to run a video. I'm going to look at no, not yet.
It's not going to run.
Oh, it's not going to run? Okay.
The link is on the live show.
Okay. So there, I'm sorry, I've got somebody helping me. So there is a link on the slideshow that you can go to run the 2019 construction recap video. I'm actually gonna do that here as soon as
It's not going to work until the recording is done.
as soon as I get done with my presentation, I'm going to get off and I'm going to go to that link and link to it and watch the video myself. So I'm looking forward to doing that. We could take any questions now, but before we did that, I just wanted to express again my sincere gratitude to all of you for being here today, for being a part of the OPD conference. This unique format, I think, is something that we are learning as we go, and I think that it's something that we're going to be doing in the future. And we'd love to get your feedback about how to do this kind of presentation better, and how to do it in an optimal way as we go forward. So we, as an organization that is deeply immersed in innovation, as an organization that is built around engineering and science, this kind of format is really interesting to us. And so we want to have you participate with us by helping us in terms of moving this kind of presentation format forward. But I also want to extend my gratitude just to you for all that you have done, not only in 19, but all that you are doing in 20. And for our employees and our partner consultants, our partner engineering organizations, construction companies that are out there, and suppliers, thank you so much for what you do for North Dakota. And again, on behalf of Governor Burgum and Lieutenant Governor Sanford, the state legislature, thank you so much. We could not have the kind of great state that we have without a strong transportation system and a strong network of partners to be able to help us deliver that. So thank you so much. Now, I didn't know where I should turn next, but I think we're going to take questions, and I guess I can stay online, and then maybe some folks that are helping us with the presentation can bring any questions that y'all have forward.
Yeah, everyone out there, please welcome to enter questions you might have into the question chat box. Those are open, and we have a few minutes here to take those. At this point, we hadn't had any questions submitted yet.
So one of the things I'll just jump in if I can, if that's okay, Matt. One of the things that we were actually talking about earlier this morning, and that were questions around NDDOT and its construction program, was when are we going to get back to sort of, you know, whatever the new normal is going to be. And I think that the governor announced yesterday in his press conference, and we are going to be working with our teams right after this phone call on what we call a smart restart program for NDDOT. And so it'll be a phased program over between you know, the middle of May and around June 30th or so, where we'll start to bring on various parts of, you know, restart various parts of our program throughout the state. And you can imagine the diversity of our mission, because we have a retail side, which is motor vehicle and driver's license, which interfaces with customers on a daily basis throughout the state at a number of different locations. We have our amazing district offices that are not only performing maintenance and operations on our road systems, but they're also managing construction programs with all of you, our partners that are out there. And so it's a very different sort of restart. And then there's all of our administrative folks here in our central office and around the state that are working to support all of that effort. And that's a different kind of restart. And so we're working through now the various aspects of our mission and our business, and are looking to begin that restart fairly soon. It'll last a little while because it'll be phased in, but we'll see that here in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited to do a smart restart and get back to our new normal. I think we've learned a lot during this throughout the state. We've learned a lot about what we can do relative to our work as an agency. And I think we're going to take a lot of those lessons and integrate them into our new normal. And so we'll look forward to that as well. And there'll be more information that'll come from our agency to you, both on the public side and then for our employees on the internal side, as we develop that smart restart program. So that's something I look forward to personally, and I think our employees are looking forward to, and I think our partners, stakeholders, contractors that are out there are looking forward to as well, is getting back to whatever the new normal is. And by the way, not only in our professional lives, but our personal lives as well. And the governor and the Indy team across all of our agencies have done a remarkable job of keeping all of us safe. And I talk about gratitude. I just want to extend again my gratitude to them as well. They, the governor, lieutenant governor, the entire governor's office, and all of the state agencies that have been part of this huge response by our state government have done a great job of being able to navigate through this unprecedented time in the history of North Dakota. I also don't want to finish at least this part without saying without extending a great deal of gratitude and appreciation to our local government, our county government, our townships and cities. They've been just remarkable as well at their responses to the COVID crisis, and working with state agencies to be able to do that. And so again, an unprecedented time and an incredible level of effort, and not unexpected with the people that live here in the great state of North Dakota, but certainly a challenging time for all of us. But of course, we've risen to the occasion and we've done great things, and we're going to continue to do great things as we go forward. So with that said, Matt, you have any other questions?
Yeah, there's a few questions flowing in now, and so a couple to maybe just build off of what you just briefed us on. One of the questions was, will there be an opportunity for some to continue working from home as we go into our new normal?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the lessons that we've learned through the crisis has been teleworking works. And I think that there will be opportunities for not only us to look internally at our operations and decide, hey, what makes sense for teleworking but also how we do, we'll call it telemeetings, and how we do teleworking outside of the agency, like this, where we're doing education programs online and workshops and that kind of thing. And so I think, yeah, there's a lot of learning that has occurred, and I don't think we want to lose that, and we want to be able to integrate that into our new normal. And by the way, this agency, NDDOT, is built for this. This is what we do every day. We're continuously improving, continuously innovating with our partners, our construction companies and our contractors and consultants, and the great folks at NDSU and UND and Upper Great Plains Transportation Institute. I mean, we have great partners to be able to constantly innovate, and so this kind of learning is natural for us. So it'll be easy to take it all in. It'll be interesting to see how this new normal all pans out, but certainly teleworking will be part of that.
Okay, maybe time for one more question, and there's a couple questions that were related to the funding outlook. Both is the legislature looking at anything as far as the gas tax, or what's our budget outlook given the loss of revenue?
Yeah, it's a little bit early yet to. We're gathering information right now for the legislature. They're asking us to gather that up, and with our partners over at OMB, the governor's office, and the state legislature, we're putting all of that information together now. It's a little early to see what it exactly will be. I think we're fine for now. That's why we're actually advancing projects. We've got those funds in place, those authorities in place, so we're able to advance. But we will be looking at that. It also it's important to mention that the federal government will have a role here. And so the question just is what that role is and when it's going to deploy. And I think that that's going to have to be part of the calculus as well, of where our budgets are. But you know, at this point, we are not too concerned about it. We're in generally, as compared to other states, I think we're in good shape. But it is something that we're going to have to deal with, and I think the legislature is going to have to deal with. And frankly, they want to. They want to be able to move the economy forward. I was talking to someone the other day, and I said there's probably no better way in state government to move an economy forward than to invest in infrastructure. It's an immediate job creator. It creates economic recovery in communities throughout our state, and it can be done very quickly. It's not as though you have to wait for a long time for it to happen, because we always have projects. They're always ready, and we're ready to deploy them. So I think it's I think we're having the same question that that our participant had, and it's a little early now, but we are looking at it, and we're starting to pull numbers together now to help the legislature with the decisions that it needs to make.
Okay, yeah, I think there's several questions flowing in now, but just to keep you on schedule and us on schedule, we'll capture those and see if we can provide answers maybe back out through the web page where we post the recordings and information and the YouTube links for the project. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the question and answer session. If you have any closing comments, Director.
No, thank you everyone for allowing me the privilege of being with you today. Thank you so much. Have a great conference over the next few weeks. It'll be, I'm sure it'll be enlightening. I'm sure it'll be helpful. It'll help us to get feedback from you. So I think that's as important as the information we're going to be providing. And we're going to continue with a variety of different ways of getting information out to you. One last thing. This will end in terms of the COVID crisis. We will get back to a new normal. And this is all part of that process. And I look forward to that. I'm sure you do too. And so I look forward to talking with you again and being able to get as much information out as we can and get in as much information in. It will simply help us to do a better job and to do the best job, not only for our agency and our stakeholders, but for North Dakota. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Director. Aaron, is your camera on?
Yes, my camera is on.
Okay, thank you. There's a slight lag on the live here, just to let everyone know. But next, we will have a presentation from Aaron Perez and John Stork from the Materials and Research Division. Go ahead, Aaron.
Welcome, everyone. As Sharon said, my name is Aaron Perez, and I'll be presenting on pipe inspections with my colleague John Stork. We both work for the North Dakota Department of Transportation as research and pavement design engineers in Materials and Research section. During this presentation, we plan on going over our pipe inspection equipment, what we have done and found so far with this equipment, the data collection software we are currently using for pipe inspection surveys and inventorying, and what the future program may look like. Our first piece of equipment is the PurePoint P350 crawler. This system is made up of the crawler itself, a powered drum, and a control module. To go over some of the crawler's capabilities, this system is completely waterproof. It is submersible up to 300 feet. The camera is pan, tilt, and zoom capable, and it runs off of electricity. We've primarily used a generator for collection, but there are other options with this. It does have LED lights on the camera as well as an optional light bar, and as you can see on the picture on the left, it really lights up pipes nicely for our inspections. And this is really best suited for isolated pipe inspections as well. Here are two pictures of the movement from the optional elevating arm. This arm allows the camera to be able to center itself in pipes up to 60 inches, depending on the overall configuration. And as you can see from these pictures, we are using double wide tire configurations for a total of 8 tires. And this crawler system really comes with multiple options for tires that can be used on a situational basis for our needs. This system also has a 4-tire cradle, which you can see on the picture in the middle and on the right, which gives the crawler the most height and uses the biggest tires that we have. So to talk about the command module and the powered drum, this crawler is really ran by the command module. The powered drum has a total of 1,000 feet of cable in it, and all information travels through this cable from the camera to the command module. So it's really an all-wired system. And the command module is where you control the crawler using the onboard screen to see what the camera sees, and there are also multiple ways to control the camera through this module. As you can see in the picture on the left, John is using the optional pendant to actually control the crawler while looking at the command module to see what the camera sees. So this is what you would see if you were controlling the crawler. Here's some of the on-screen details. So on the top is the distance counter, and this is actually done by measuring the length of cable that is out of the powered drum. So distance isn't measured by wheel movement, which is very helpful when the tires spin in mud and slick areas to keep that distance actually accurate. Underneath that's the pitch angle, and the camera has a built-in inclinometer, which is used to display this pitch angle. And PurePoint calls the display towards the bottom of the screen the mimic controls, and here's where you can see the relative location of where the camera is, the horizontal orientation of the crawler, and your speed and steering thresholds, whether it's forward, backwards, left, or right. So our second piece of inspection equipment that we have is our Hydraulic Inspection Vehicle Explorer, or HIVE for short. This is our more speedy option and more user-friendly option as well, and consists of a GoPro mounted to an RC car that can all be controlled using an iPad and a controller. We first found out of the Hive unit from MnDOT. On their website, they have building instructions, parts lists, wiring schematics, anything you can need to assist in putting together the units, along with general information and research that's been done on it. Also, North Dakota LTAP has put together a Hive, actually before we did. Dale Hageland with ND LTAP let us actually borrow their unit to assist us in putting together our first Hive. And Dale also gave us all their own parts lists, kept all their receipts and boxes to all the individual pieces, and this helped us out tremendously. So thank you, Dale. LTAP also has information on their website, including a user manual for their Hive, and if anyone is looking for additional resources. We were invited by Mark Schrader with FHWA and Dale Hageland with NDLTAP to come and see how inspections were being conducted on pipes near Max, North Dakota in 2019 that were of importance to FHWA. And this was the first time we really got to see the hive in action. We actually used LTAP's hive for this inspection, and FHWA was using the Esri Collector app for their documentation and conditioning and location mapping for the pipes under these roads. So go over some of the capabilities of the hive. We found out this thing is very capable. We've had great success with this unit being able to run in actual really harsh pipe conditions. This thing's waterproof to about 4 inches of water, and we really consider this thing a little monster when it comes to these inspections. It's a pretty cool piece of equipment. So we have found that the hive to be much more user-friendly compared to the crawler due to its ease of deployment, weight, and overall speed of collection from one pipe to the next, which is why we'd recommend this for like mass pipe inspections. On the picture on the left, John actually deployed the hive units into the failure area towards the middle of the pipe. This is much easier to accomplish with the hive as compared to the crawler, just due to weight and size. And with the use of a GoPro camera on the RC car, the picture quality is really superb and makes it quite easy to find issues with the pipes that may not be as easy to spot otherwise. The picture on the right, I really like it. It really shows the quality of the GoPro camera and what you can see inside these pipes. So now I'll get into some of the different inspections we have done that are more focused on the crawler. The first is a pipe along the west ditch of I-29 northbound through Grand Forks on exit 140, and it's right next to a railroad bridge. This pipe is about 140 feet long and ran parallel with the interstate. This pipe was disturbed due to a landslide, and we were asked to go inspect it by our NDDOT geotechnical section. So as you can see, this landslide really messed up the alignment of this pipe. The embankment near the railroad bridge crossing displaced the end section by about 2 feet. And we actually had some serious issues with our equipment traversing this pipe due to the severe separation between the barrels, as you can see. Another location we inspected pipes due to landslide was around Horseshoe Bend. Horseshoe Bend is located near RP 128 on US 85, just north of Long X Bridge and south of Watford City. We inspected 2 pipes requested by our geotech section. One was over 300 feet long and the other was over 500 feet long. And as you can see from the picture on the right, one of these pipes actually became visible from the surface due to the landslide. So we deployed from the inlets of each pipe and really tried to find the best way to set up and maneuver through the landslide material that was very slippery Badlands clay, as you can see from some of the material in these pictures around the pipe inlets and where we set up. So here is a picture from each pipe we inspected. The picture on the left shows our first pipe. This is a concrete pipe that had a large amount of rock and debris in it, and some of these rock were quite large, as you can see from this picture. And the pipe on the right is a smooth wall seamless pipe that pulled apart quite severely due to the landslide. So our next inspection happened in Bismarck near Grand Marsh Bridge. The inlet of this pipe was located in the south ditch of I-94. It traveled downhill to 2-to-1 slope to River Road, where it then flattened out under River Road and exited directly into the Missouri River. We were asked by Bismarck District to inspect this, as they knew there was already an issue in this pipe, as the ground close to River Road had started to wash away around the pipe. So they just wanted to see how bad the issue was and how much of the pipe actually needed to be replaced or fixed. So we deployed in the south ditch of I-94 in the inlet of the pipe. The outlet at the time was pretty well submerged by water and also partially frozen, which restricted us. And the district came out and removed the large inlet grate in order for us to actually conduct our inspection. So when we deployed, we hit the 2-to-1 slope with ease with our pipe crawler and traversed down the pipe until we hit an issue we really hadn't seen before. Close to where the 2-to-1 ended and the pipe flattened out, we hit foam, as you can see from the pictures. We put our crawler through the foam to see if we could see anything and maybe see if it ended. Instead, we found out it did not end and completely engulfed our crawler, including the camera, and didn't allow our camera to see anything. And we pulled the crawler out. This is how it looked, just like a little cloud on wheels. So we waited a few days and went back out to inspect this pipe once the foam had subsided. And as you can see from the picture, the water traveling down this 2-to-1 right before the pipe flattened out was actually exiting through a hole in the invert of this pipe, flowing around the pipe, causing the washout issue that the district saw. And here I will show a short video of what this actually looked like from the crawler. So now I'll turn it over to John and let him go over the Hive unit more in depth, as well as the collection software and where all these inspections and inventorying will lead to.
All right, first of all, good morning. Thank you all for being here. As Aaron said, my name is John Stork. I work in the Research and Pavement Design section of the DOT's Materials and Research Division. So our goal for this pipe inspection program was to create a program to accurately assess and monitor the condition of our in-place pipe network. So as Materials and Research then, our role was to be a support resource for the districts by developing the framework necessary to move towards the implementation of this project. So a little bit more background on these inspections. The inspections that Aaron was talking about are more of an emergency pipe inspection where typically your failures already occurred, whether it was from a natural event such as a landslide or a storm event, or just a failure from age or deterioration. And then our goal is to assess the extent of the damage and basically provide an in-depth look and aid the designers in figuring out the best course of repair in these situations. So these are typically the most extreme environments we encounter. We usually bring both units, and sometimes we deploy the more robust pier point if the situation calls for it. Sometimes, like Aaron said, we use the smaller unit depending on the situation. So on the other hand, these corridor assessments are typically more of an asset management type routine inspection. These are meant to assess the in-place pipes for replacement on upcoming projects, or simply establish a baseline rating to use for deterioration monitoring and planning purposes for the future. So these assessments, typically we've been doing 10 to 20 mile stretches, and what we found so far, most of them are functional pipes in fair condition. So these assessments are a great tool for finding pipes that we need to replace, but not only that, they're great for finding which pipes we don't need to replace. So to do these assessments, we asked for some district input on upcoming projects or problem stretches of roadway to where we could test our equipment and involve district personnel for training opportunities. The first training we did with the Hive unit itself was in Dickinson District down near Mott on Highway 8 for an upcoming minor rehab. We spent a few days down there with the construction staff doing training on this Hive unit. So the first inspection, we actually did not have the data collection software completed at that point. So it was all paper records. We used RP markers and DMIs or odometers to kind of assign the pipe locations. And then we used the GoPro video numbers and then paper notes. That was a bit challenging just because it was a 15 to 20 mile job with quite a few pipes. But it was a good, valuable thing to see. Just during the implementation of our data collection software, we were able to address some of those issues. We also had a couple equipment issues when we were down there on our first try. We sheared off a couple gears. We ended up upgrading some plastic to metal gears just so we didn't have those issues on future builds. So here's a few of those things that we found on Highway 8. Here you can see there's a pretty significant rust hole from corrosive soil in a corrugated metal steel pipe. This is a good example of a construction installation problem. This is probably from unloading the pipe or from actually installing the pipe. You can see a tear. Another neat thing to note was actually a few weeks after we did our initial training with Dickinson District, they actually utilized the Hive on a full depth reclamation job up near Halliday, North Dakota on Highway 8. So this was encouraging to us just to see the adoption of the new technology so soon after the initial training. In this pipe, you can see some separation of the barrels here, some standing water, slight misalignment. You can see a little bit of cracking here at about 4 o'clock on the haunches. This is another pipe up near Halliday. You can see the end section has separated and caused some void infiltrating soil into the pipe itself. You can see some pretty severe misalignment here. This is a pretty common area where they have some shifting of pipes and some landslides on this stretch. So it was a good tool to get some in-depth look at what was actually going on there. This one actually was a few months later. We spent a few days and a few nights down in Valley City District, down near Ashley on Highway 11. As many of you know, they had a very wet spring, summer, and I guess even fall when we were down there back in 2019. This made some interesting environments for us to run our equipment through, but it also let us test our equipment in some less than ideal situations. So here you can see this is the end section. You have some pretty significant cracking at the crown. You also have some spalling at the joint. The barrel on this one actually looked pretty good, so this would be a good candidate for just an end section replacement. On this one, you can see, so there's a lot of wetlands down in that area of the state. So there's a lot of equalizer pipes, and with high flows comes high sediment, and the water recedes, leaves a bunch of sediment. So here they had about a 50% full pipe of sedimentation. The barrel actually looked pretty good, but this would be a good candidate to mark for cleaning. So this is the typical kind of pipe environment that you'll see in some of these areas. So being as they aren't tied pipes, you have a lot of a little bit of shifting. So you can see at each one of these joints, you have infiltration of soil at each joint, and then you also have pretty muddy conditions. So the problem with pipes like this, when you get these separations, is you have all of this soil coming in and creating a void up here or up top of the pipe, and then you lose your soil support for your flexible pavement up top, and it can't span it, and pretty soon it fails and you have a giant pothole in the road. Valley City has experienced some of these issues on this stretch of roadway, and they were actually pretty hopeful and excited about going and investigating some of the other issues that they've had with other pipes when we left this equipment with them. This is also the first project where we introduced the Survey 123 data collection app. We received some great feedback from the Valley City maintenance staff about the ease of collection and some of the pros of using the digital storage. We collected about 70 pipes here, and you're looking 5 to 10 photos and a video for each one. So you're talking quite a bit of media. So this really helps to keep things straight and collected efficiently. So this is a few months later. This is actually back in November. We were called out. Our geotechnical engineers wanted us to go take a look at a few problem pipes in the Bismarck district down near Selfridge. So we went and took a look at those. Here you can see some pretty significant washout and some scour damage from lack of slope protection there. So this is actually what we found, and we're all too familiar with these dips that are caused by your pipe settlements. And then you can see here on the right, this was actually the same pipe, and you have about 45 inches of standing water that wasn't draining through the pipe. So we actually had a section on the other side here where you had some washouts under the asphalt that it was bridging. So we ended up conveying these results to the Bismarck district back in November, and then that prompted them to do a full centerline pipe inventory on this project for an upcoming sliver widening. So fast forward a few months, this is that same stretch of roadway. We went out and spent a few days with the district staff there. And obviously you can tell it's winter. So that posed some interesting challenges. Anytime you're talking about cold weather and gloves and touchscreens and batteries and electronics, it creates some issues. But overall, it went pretty well. It just added a little bit to the collection time. Obviously, digging out pipes when you're talking about a few feet of snow, it takes a little bit of time, or even finding pipes if they didn't have the markers was next to impossible, even if you knew the location of the pipe. Also, the reduced traction in the pipe was kind of an unforeseen circumstance. It's difficult to drive an RC car uphill on ice, so you kind of had to deploy from the upstream end. And then once the weather started warming up, all of this water then had to evacuate through the pipes. And so that put a bit of a delay on us as well. Some pros of the winter collection, obviously it's downtime, so you have more available staffing. Certain pipes that don't ever drain, you can get into them, take a look at the crown while they're frozen over. So you visited all these pipes, now you have all of these photos and videos. What do you do with all of it? You can't just expect people to sift through tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of photos to actually find out the information that they want. So as Aaron said, we demoed the Esri Collector app with FHWA, and we looked at a couple other software packages. Ultimately, we chose Survey 123 because it fit our needs. It's fairly easy for field collection, and we'll get into that a little bit in a bit, and it's highly customizable for the form. One of the big pros of this is its offline operation. So a lot of these areas you don't actually have cell signal or internet access. So you can actually collect offline. Once you get back online, it will send all of those forms off and upload them to the server for you. So this is actually the Survey 123 data collection app. This is what the inspector would see on their iPad. This is the kind of information that you'll be collecting. So your top is just your general initials, the district at which the pipe is in, highway number. You have a few pipe specific details such as concrete, plastic, size, orientation, all of that. Your inspection date, that autofills when you open the form itself. The video collected, that's simply to filter if you have media associated with the pipe itself. The collect point, so this is actually a geodata location where if I had GPS capability on my computer itself, it would place me at my location that I'm at. Because I don't, it's telling me I'm there. Now this can be used for actually assigning you to an RP along a route. So that's a pretty powerful tool. And then, so you have, then you get into the ranking system. So this is your approach roadway. So like the one on Highway 6 where you have the rutting, you would click yes, and then it'll bring up a series of questions about different distresses along the roadway. And then you assign ratings to that. It automatically prompts you to bring up a camera. If the camera wasn't being used by Microsoft Teams, it would automatically bring it up, and then you simply attach a photo to it and it automatically attaches. You can add comments to that photo, all of this stuff. So it's also worth noting that all of these are conditional statements. So if you click concrete, you'll have different ratings than if you click plastic or steel. And then steel, you have different choices of what type of steel pipe it is. So then you go through all of these conditional ratings. Each one of these actually has somewhat of like a little cheat sheet to it. Now these are all rankings that were derived off the update to the 1986 FHWA culvert inspection manual. So these, I did not just make these up, but they're basically meant to be a reference guide so that we have a standardized inspection and all of our inspectors are on the same page of what good, fair, poor, severe actually mean for each of these respective ratings. So you keep going through all of these. Some of the things at the bottom, pipe require maintenance, we'll get into that a little bit later. That's basically a filtering tool so that we can track that. Some of these, basically, if you click yes, they bring up, most of the time you're not going to have manholes, catch basins, or junction boxes within your pipes. So it'll keep it collapsed just to keep the form a little bit cleaner. Once you're done with the actual inspection itself, you assign an overall condition rating based off of your scale here and the ratings above it. So depending on what you pick, sometimes it'll have you do recommendations. If you pick poor or severe, if you can't find the pipe, let's say it's submerged and you don't know it, you click unknown, that'll also be a filterable thing later. And then you have your associated actions depending on your rating scale. So you can enter those, you can enter your additional comments, you can enter photos, like I said before. You click the camera icon, it brings your photo up, you take your picture, it automatically attaches. There's no backlogging on that. And then it also tags what your photo is. So you're looking at a photo, it'll be tagged north or west surroundings. It's great for knowing what you're actually looking at. You don't have to type a comment if it's attached in that field. And then you sign, you can put your link to your video here, and then you click submit. Once you click submit, it uploads to our server. it actually uploads to Esri server, and then we pull from Esri server. So Esri also has a viewer, but theirs requires a license. So we set up our own viewer so that all of our staff can utilize this without needing an Esri license for this. This is actually what you'll see. These are all pipes collected. These are the ones on North Dakota 6 that I was talking about before. So then you can click into the details of it. You see your general details. You see your overall condition, diameter, length, all of that stuff. You can click your additional details and you see all of the defects that were associated on that form. You can see all of your comments, all of your photos are attached at the bottom. So if you want to see, okay, I want to take a look at the approach pavement distress photo. You click that, it brings up your distresses at that location. So it's a really powerful tool of just keeping all of your stuff straight and keeping it organized. Another thing you can do with this is actually the filtering and the query tool. So you can, there's basically limitless options of what you can do with this. But if you go to tools and you go to query, you can actually sort by different areas, different districts if you made a polygon for it, and then you can filter by all of these distresses. So let's say you wanted to see concrete cracking, all of the pipes within the map area that have a poor rating on cracking. So then you go ahead and you click that and you have all of these 5, and then you can export this however you want to, do whatever you want in Excel. I mean, it's a pretty powerful tool for data observation and utilization there. So the gray ring around here, this is what we were talking about as the needs cleaning. So that's a pretty powerful tool. We'll talk a little bit later, but you could export all of your cleaning locations to, you know, and all of their coordinates even to a report and then hand them off to whoever's doing the work. So that is our viewer. So why are we doing all of this? Well, obviously our number one goal here is safety. So the goal of this program was to perform these inspections proactively instead of always reactively, to basically get in front of these deteriorations before they become a problem for the traveling public. That's the number one priority. Now, a lot of these go hand in hand. Your cost savings, obviously there's a lot of man hours to actually inventory these pipes. But we also save a lot of money in a lot of other ways that are hard to quantify. So take the River Road example that Aaron was talking about. The pipe was basically a heavy flow 2-to-1 on one side, and then it outletted in the river. So there's basically no way to access by either end to take a look at what was actually causing that sinkhole. So within a few hours, the first day, yeah, we couldn't access it. The second day, it took us probably a few hours with the design staff out there to go ahead and take a look at what was causing that defect, and if nothing else, just to give them a location to start digging. Otherwise, you would have to sort of do an exploratory excavation. You'd have to shut down River Road, do some of that stuff. There's a lot more cost and there's a lot more invasiveness to stuff like that. You can also take a look at alternative fixes such as liners. You can see, okay, is this pipe still structurally sound? Can we rehab it instead of always replacing it? You can get a nice look inside of the pipe. You have less downtime, less delay to the public, things like that. You can also save money where you can provide justification that the pipe doesn't need to be replaced just by actually getting an inside look of it instead of just looking from the end sections. Change order is another thing. You can get a better idea of what you're actually dealing with when you bid the project instead of change ordering pipes on for an increased pipe or increased cost later. Ultimately, you're using the information that you're collecting to make the best informed decision about repairing the infrastructure. Oh, sorry. So condition monitoring, that is monitoring our network by the condition, right? So once we get an accurate and full network of our pipes, you can see how they deteriorate over time based off of your rating conditions, and as they deteriorate, you're going to do a more frequent inspection. Some of these pipes, we basically, by the design manual, you're looking at about 75 years for a center line and about 40 for approaches. So interstate was put in the 50s. Some of the pipes could be nearing some of that. It's all soil dependent as far as their condition. So it's some of them may well exceed their design life depending on their condition and their surroundings. The maintenance side, we kind of touched on this a little bit. It's the ability to verify in-field which pipes need cleaning or maintenance or end sections or any of this, and then being able to export the locations to whoever's doing the work, whether it's in-house staff or contracted or whatever. Post-construction inspections, that's basically just another QC tool to ensure that we get quality construction and the ability to monitor during a potential warranty period for defects in installation or the workmanship. So what's next for us? Well, right now we have a total of 9 of these hives. 3 of them are distributed to the districts already. We plan to distribute the remaining 6 hives throughout the summer and fall. Obviously, this is highly conditional on the COVID-19 situation and the severity of how that impacts the summer season, but we will adapt as necessary with that. So for any of you district personnel in here, if you would like to get involved with this, or if you have a stretch of road that you think would be a good candidate for this, let myself or Aaron know, and we will try to make that happen. So that's all I have for pipe inspections. I think we'll take a question or two. Matt?
Yeah, I got several questions that have come in, so send the first couple to you, John.
Okay.
What happens if one of those pipe units gets stuck?
Sure. So kind of like Aaron, I guess Aaron broke down this. So the big unit is tethered by the data cable itself with 1,000 feet of spool. All of our smaller ones run stainless steel, 250-foot reels, basically. So if your batteries die, if you get it stuck, you flip it, which happens quite frequently. You just reel it back, and you don't lose the equipment. There have been a time where we've lost a light or something in there, and a lot of times you can get them out with a little bit of ingenuity, but it depends. If it's a long pipe, that's just how it goes.
The other question with doing the inspections, and I think maybe Aaron answered this in the chat here, but have you experienced any critters or skunks when you're running the camera through the pipes?
Skunks, no, not yet, thankfully. A lot of skunk poop, and a lot of skunk scent. So especially during the winter ones, you really kind of just jump in there, and it's a nice cozy little hole for them, and it stinks like skunk. You're very hesitant to jump in there. But no, we found obviously a lot of mice, a lot of frogs, a lot of stuff like that, but not yet. I'm sure we will.
Okay, I got a question for Aaron. Is the intent to inventory all pipes in North Dakota, or will pipe inventories go in conjunction with planned construction projects to aid in design decisions?
I think right away it's going to be to aid in design decisions, but I think the long-term goal is to get everything inventoried, and that's going to be an evolving system of how we do this, and we're just trying to put everything in place to get to that goal. However, I think as of now, we're still in the let's do what we can. If we need something to go investigate, let's go investigate it. But in the end, we would like to get every pipe done and use that map that John kind of showed there. It'd be awesome to be able to sort through, even for the districts, for instance, to look at all your district pipes and, hey, let's look at all the ones that are severe, all colored red. Well, these are the ones we really need to start looking at, so we're hoping this turns into something, evolves into something that will encompass every pipe.
Okay, another question is how do I get an inspection done? Let's say there's a designer out there that's working on a project or a district that has an interest in getting some of this information. How would you recommend they go about that?
Well, we're hoping we can get a hive unit to every district shortly. So I think that'd be the first start. Get a hold of your own district's hive units. And if it turns into the hive doesn't work for some reason, whether it be because of more than 4 inches of water or super high grade or a really long pipe and it loses connection between the GoPro and the iPad, which we've had really good success with. However, that is possible because it is all wireless in that regard. Then you'd probably want to contact Materials and Research and get a hold of us to get our big PurePoint P350 out there. And that'd be more on a situational basis to get the big guy out there.
Okay. I got a question for John. What's the total cost to build the GoPro crawler, the Hive unit?
Well, it ranges. It depends on your needs. So on the newer ones we've been using, we've done an upgraded GoPro and some upgrades to the actual unit itself just to make it more robust. We've learned some things throughout the process to use a bit higher quality on some of these things. So it's roughly $1,500 per unit, not including the iPad, but it can run on anything the app and the GoPro app, we haven't found a device that it won't run on, Android or Apple.
I think I got one more question we'll squeeze in here is, you're showing that GIS web page. Where do you find that information with all of the pipe inspection information? Yeah,
so right now it's just an internal thing. As far as DOT goes, it's for our GeoCortex. We may be changing that depending, but right now we're still in the implementation phase and the collection phase. So as far as where you can find it, you'll have to, I can post a link, I guess, for all of the internal folks.
I think that was the follow-up question too, is that available outside DOT?
Not at this moment.
Aaron, one more question for you. Pipes that are partially full of water, any plans on how to handle those? How do you typically handle those?
So I'll use the crawler for an example here. Our crawler is 100% waterproof, submersible up to 300 feet. But the issue is if you want to get the camera in water to see any sort of issues, if that water is flowing or if it's murky, that camera is not going to know what to focus on. And there's a good chance you're not going to be able to see anything but a cloud of dirt. So what I would recommend is to obviously want to be able to look at these pipes when they're dry. That'd be the best inspection. But if there are things prevailing, let's say the pipe is half full and you can look up and see on the pipe, see if it's cracking up on top, the likelihood of being able to see the inverts is probably pretty low, but there's always a chance. But that's what we've seen, at least with the big crawler, trying to get the camera into the water and it doesn't know what to focus on and you really can't see much. So that would be an issue, I think, no matter what you do, if it's full of water. Unless it's real clear water, I think you're going to have some issues. Any other questions, Matt?
Yeah, I got one more for John. Just to wrap up here, the question was, would you ever bring a lawn chair with you to sit inside that pipe so you can see what's going on? I've seen some pictures of you, tucked in that pipe pretty tight. How does that work for you?
Yeah, a lawn chair wouldn't really fit. It's kind of difficult, and the reason you do that is you have wireless capability and you have your wireless signal from your controller to the Hive itself, and then you have to maintain Bluetooth between the GoPro and the iPad. So and concrete pipes are very good at blocking signal. So sometimes you have to get in there and straddle the stream and sit sideways and control it that way. But no, I have not brought a lawn chair.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. I think that's all. That covers most of the questions that we got to this point.
Excellent.
Well, thanks, everyone, and thanks for the questions. And I guess in closing, if you have any more questions or want to get in contact with me or John, please feel free to do so, and we'll get you on the right track. Everyone, wash your hands.
I And thank you to everyone for attending the first session of the Virtual Construction Project Development Conference. The video from today's presentation will be posted on the conference website. The construction review video will be available on the DOT's YouTube site. Please check the website and look for an invitation to the next session. Thank you for attending.